There we go. Okay. Should be good. Yes. Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. I was out late tonight, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm not as prepared as normal, which is not very much anyways. So let's see what's going on here. KSB Crafters in, Raphael Mendeville, Janice Windsor, Seneca, Autumn Nichols, Moonlit Illusion, Silver E55, Chariot of Faith, Shari D is in. Welcome, everybody. All right, so we actually got a fair lot of Emmys to cover tonight, so I'm going to try to move along. This one was discovered by Jay Emblin, a commenter on the channel. I'd seen this one before, but then I lost track of it, and it's a really interesting one. There's a whole lot of them today about animals that are dead but still moving for long periods of time. And this is one I had seen about maybe 6 months ago. Basically, this woman caught this fish, and she cut off the head, and she's completely gutted it, so the whole inside is out. She wants to scale it now, because if you get fish that have scales, you've got to scrape the scales off. You don't want to be eating those. So she's trying to scale it, but it acts like it's trying to bite her, which freaks her out because there's no head or anything. But when you see something whipping around to bite you, it's instinctive to just let go. So you can see her here. This one's called Dead Fishes Alive 001. I love this video. It was such a trip. So see, it keeps trying to get her until she flips out and drops it. She drops it a bunch of times in this video. She's going to get a hold of it again and try again. Let's see, it keeps jumping around. There's more of it earlier too. So there she's trying to say, look, the head is over there, etc., etc. I just think it's funny how she's grabbing it with that towel. I never did grab a dead fish by a towel. You know, I used to fish when I was younger, and this never happened, let me just say. Well, here she gets started, and it immediately... I think I would just totally freak out if this happened. I guess I'm used to it in this timeline, maybe, but never happened before. Anyway, it's a really interesting video. Definitely worth watching. See who else is in. I wouldn't eat it. Yeah, you know, I guess it's just common for this timeline. I mean, this is not the first video I've had of fish flopping around. There was one I had a while back. It was already in the oven baking, and it was bouncing around in the oven. Can you imagine? All right. This one is brought by, the zombie snake is by Melissa Gasbar, Gasbarre, maybe Gasbarre. The zombie snake. So you've heard of possums and playing possum, where the possum flips over and acts dead, and I've definitely seen that happen. A friend of mine once scooped up a dead possum with her shovel and was carrying it to the garbage can, only to have it come alive again and scare the crap out of her. So I know possums do this. Well, apparently some snakes do it now. Everyone knows the possum plays dead, but news stories of zombie snakes began circulation this week after park officials in North Carolina posted photos on Facebook of a snake that exhibits similar behavior. It's the eastern hognose snake. Now, apparently these aren't super rare or anything. Beats me why we've never heard of them doing this. Apparently they put on this dramatic death show, and they open their mouth and they lay on their back and they make a big show of it, and then they hope the predator will go away. I've always thought this is kind of a weird tactic, because, I mean, can't the predator tell that you were alive a second ago? Wouldn't it just eat you anyway? It can smell that you're healthy, I'm sure. And I mean, like, what does it care if you just died 5 minutes ago? It's still going to eat you. I really never really understood how this is supposed to help you at all. I mean, I could see hiding and trying to, like, not move, but this thing writhes around like in a big death drama, apparently. So anyways, possums aren't the only ones anymore. All right, here's another one of those. You know, there's another video I saw, and I can't find it now. I thought I had saved it, but I don't. Oh, and in $5 for Eva. Thank you. Very much appreciate that. So this other beastie, let's see what you guys are all talking about. I feel like I'm missing one up there. Oh, okay, that's you. All right, got it. All right. Looks like the display is a little different on this on the chat now. Okay, so this one's another one. This is a sashimi plate. So if you don't know what sashimi is, it's just in Japan. It's like sushi, but without all the rice and vegetables. It's just the meat. So in Japan, they like to have really, really, really fresh meat, which of course in this timeline means that it's still jumping. So this frog has been cut in half, fully gutted and everything, and then it's going to try to get away, even though most of it's gone, which is really creepy. So here you can see in a minute it's going to. So there's not even the back half of the frog isn't even there, and the whole middles are gone. So yeah. So she goes on to eat it apparently. There was another one that I can't find now, but there was a fish that, like, the back 2/3 of it were eaten, and it was the front third was like swimming along in the ocean. I've just never seen that. I mean, so all kinds of fish now can do this, where they can still move and. I mean, used to be if you ate half of the fish, then the front half is not going to be still. It's swimming along like nothing happened. I tried to find that video this morning and I couldn't find it. All right, so now there's been 2 of these. This is one I found a few days ago. These huntsmen spiders are an interesting story because a couple years ago there was a thing where, there's a huntsman spider the size of a dinner plate was found. And usually the story said that usually huntsman spiders are really small. And it was really amazing that there was one this big, and nobody knew why it was so large. But it seems like that size is pretty common now. It was not common then, but now there's all these videos and photos of huntsman spiders eating weird things. So here it is eating a possum. Now they call this a possum, but this apparently is a tiny species of possum. So it's more like a rat-sized thing, but. So it is captured and is eating this possum here in Australia in front of horrified ski lodge guests. All right. And then we had today, well, I don't know if it was today actually, but so I found it today on my comments. Let's see, who was that from? Oh, and the live frog sashimi was from Julie Holcomb. Can't forget that. And dead fish is alive. That creepy fish that was trying to bite was Jay Emblin. All right, who sent this one in? Erg. Maybe it's on this side. Uh-oh. Looks like I didn't write it down. So I apologize. I've been really sloppy lately. I could probably find it in my comments. Let me see. I might be able to find it. Well, I'll try to cover that next week then. Who was? But apparently I'm not keeping good notes anymore. I thought I wrote that down. Telephone poles, frog, zombie snake, squid. Yeah, no, it's not on here. Huh. Nope. All right. Well, I apologize. It's this one. This one was found by somebody else. And this one is giant spider carrying a mouse is horrifying and impressive. This was probably Julie Holcomb again because like half of the stuff I have today is from her. So this, so now it's got some kind of a mouse and it's climbing along the fridge. Spider carrying a mouse. He's going to eat it. I mean, how much more does that mouse weigh than that spider? In my old time frames, they could not eat.
Man, that is so cool.
At first, it was that weird, like, Amazon spider, but this is Australian spiders now. So I think we're going to see more of this. First, we saw the spiders eating the hummingbirds. Now it's mice and possums. I think we're seeing a pattern here. Okay. All right, this is more from Julie Holcomb again. She's been busy this week. Telephone poles from 1911. Very weird. This is not that much, not long after the telephone was invented. You know, I really can't say if this is an Emmy or not. I've never seen anything like this. I've definitely seen messes like this, like in current India and stuff, but no, I don't know. Very suspicious. So another one, that was another from Julie Holcomb. All right, this one is very weird, and this is another one from Julie Holcomb. All right, we've talked about the early electric cars from 100 years ago. So here are the catalog of all these electric cars. And I think there was some kind of stats like 90% of cars were electric at one point, like 100 years ago. So they got all this catalog, 1895 to 1925. Some of these had ranges of 100 miles. I mean, that's kind of similar to the range on a lot of our current ones, which I just don't get how the tech was so good that they had a 100-mile range of electric cars back then. It's just, I just don't think so. But look at all of them. 100-mile electric roadsters. So they're calling it electric vehicle EV. It seems to be the abbreviation of choice these days. Hypermiling records. I don't know if I've ever heard that word. Staged events run at slow and constant speed over carefully selected roads using special tires. Baker Motor Vehicle Company covered 160 miles on a single charge. 2 years later, he beat his early mark by traveling 201.6 miles, which is 324 kilometers. Set an average speed of 17 kilometers per hour. All right, and then all right, so that was 1901, 190 miles. In 2009, the Tesla Roadster set a new hypermiling record for 311 miles. Okay, so it's only an extra 100 miles over the tech from 120 years ago. 120 years ago, they did 200 miles, and in 2009, we did 311 miles. They did it at a faster speed, granted, but I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Oh, moonlit illusion. Yeah, that's been a popular Mandela effect for the last few months, is the early electric cars now. Apparently, electric cars were really popular like 120 years ago. Really popular, actually. Don't like nature anymore. Yeah, there are some nice things, though. All the rainbows. Oh, everybody's asking if it's fake. I think you mean those spiders eating the mice. But you know, there's a bunch of videos on it, and there's all these specialists saying, "Oh, well, it's kind of rare, but sometimes they eat mice." How many times in 8 minutes did I write ew? Yeah, sorry, that's one bad thing about my channel. I always have creepy crawlies on it. T-Box is in. House of 10 Genres. Ghosty 333 is in. Tech Marching Backwards. Yep. You know, I don't know if I remember to even put it on the list, but here's another one I noticed. When do you remember Fiona Broom putting up her Mandela Effect channel? What year did her... Now, if you don't remember or know, Fiona Broom is the one who invented the word the Mandela Effect. Supposedly her and some other people got together and were talking, and they started comparing notes, and they had these same false memories like the Nelson Mandela one. So when did she make... She has her own website that's the Mandela Effect. When did she put that website up? Do you guys remember? Freshwater dolphin. Yeah, actually, I think I covered that at least a year ago. There's those weird pink dolphins, and there's freshwater seals now, too. It didn't used to be freshwater seals. Yeah, they talked about newer ones have to go faster, but it's still very suspicious. There are a lot of them. Oh, yeah, it does have a really weird face, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks like it's got like a death face or something when you look at it close up. See, that is pretty icky looking. Yeah, I've never seen that before. Yeah, no. Nope. This is another one. Stuff we didn't used to have was this ridiculous extra crap on top of the beaks. It started out small, and now it's just getting ridiculous. A lot of the birds have that now. All right, so got the early... So when do you remember Fiona? Or even like, when do you remember that she coined the term the Mandela Effect? What year was that? All right, this is earlier than I remember. I thought it was around 2012 that she did her website, but according to this now, it's 2009. Launched the Mandela Effect website to document memories that didn't match our current reality and its history. So these are like some of the earlier Mandela Effects here. Encouraged by one of my book editors, I started this website. It's weird because I was kind of looking and I was having trouble pinning down when she actually came up with the term. Used to be pretty easy to find that, but I did not find it this last time I looked. It might be out there somewhere. There used to be a wiki I could go to, and it said what year she came up with the term, and now I'm only finding the year she launched that website. You started 1 hour earlier, or is this just another case of daylight hour madness? Yeah, nope, I started at my normal midnight, so I don't know. I mean, did I have any daylight? No, I haven't. We haven't done any jumping forward or backward lately. Have you guys? Because if you didn't and I didn't, then something is awry. All right. Joanne Williams remembers 2016. I remember it was like 2012, 2014. Not before 2012. I kind of think it might have been 2014. It was not 2009 that she launched her website, though, because that was sometime after she had developed the terminology and stuff. I saw her page in 2016, and it was just a couple of years old. Yeah, that's about right for me. I learned of the ME in 2016, and it was only a few years old. So, in the name of Jesus, we stand. What country are you in that now we're an hour different? Did your country have any daylight savings time changes? Because if you didn't and I didn't, then that's pretty weird. All right, so we have some people saying 2009. A bunch of other people are more like around, I'm remembering, which is around 2014. Fuel tank on the space shuttle. Let's check that one out. I assume we're talking about the American one. In my timeline, there was just the one, but in this timeline, the Russians had a almost identical space shuttle. So if you see the space shuttle, you got to be careful. It's not one of theirs. Sharper and pointed. I remember it being much rounder. I remember these tanks being really fat. Really a lot more fat, I should say. They look pretty tiny right now. They at least the size comparison, the middle tanks and the middle tank and the side tanks were a lot larger compared to the middle tank. To me, a lot larger. Now I think this is probably here an image of when they used to plop the space shuttle on top of an airplane and fly it around, like piggyback style. I've mentioned before that that's an ME for me. They didn't used to do that. It was a big laborious process moving. Oh, you know what? This is the Russian one. They did the same thing though as us. Americans also did that. No, it was very laborious moving the space shuttle in my old timeline. Yeah, see, the coloration looks a bit off, but I can't swear to that. These tanks are a lot smaller. That's what I would say is the change for me. I don't know if you guys notice anything. Look, those are tiny now. Tiny. Yeah, no. I've got my own Emmy. The guy that drew Alien, his name is Geiger now. It was Giger. Now I remember it clearly. But I remember it clearly as Geiger, Geiger. I'm pretty sure it was always Giger for me personally. But you know, I don't see every single ME. I see most of them. So it could be. And keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll flip flop. That's not one I can swear on. I wasn't like a super diehard fan or anything. I think it was Giger for me though. Let's see. Not like Geiger counter. Geiger art. Yeah. It's still Geiger. Fairy penguin. All right, so Gosi 333 is talking about the blue penguin. I think I've had this one on before. They're a little bluish. Not really blue yet, I don't think. Well, that one's looking pretty blue, though. The other colors don't look that bright, so it doesn't really look like they cranked the color too much either. So maybe the babies now are getting more blue. Interesting. Little blue fairy, huh? Okay, so they're bluening down. They're bluening up. Doesn't really surprise me. I think the names are often an indicator of the direction that it will go. Well, I see a lot of people remembered later than 2009, but a few people remember 2009. The Buran is a Russian space shuttle. In my old timeline, it never flew into space, but now it did, and it could land completely autonomous without a pilot. That's interesting. Now, the last time I checked on that thing, it never flew into space. So if you're saying it's did, then that's an upgrade to its success. I don't remember there ever having one originally. That was quite some time ago, though. So, their tech is improving also backwards in time, it seems. Do you remember the metal codices found in a cave in Jordan? Probably not. Jordan lead codices. Nope, I don't. No, I don't think so. The Jordan lead codices, allegedly found in a cave in Jordan, publicized in March 2011. A number of scholars pronounce them fakes. A radioactive test performed confirmed the old age of lead used, but not the inscriptions. So currently regarded as forgeries. But they are saying the lead is old, so they just have to prove now that the inscriptions are old. All right, so a bunch of controversy on that. I think you probably want to keep an eye on that and see how this one shakes out. Right now, they did verify supposedly that the lead itself is old. So, what they found a bunch of old lead and then scraped on it in a new way, or what? I don't know. But yeah, I don't remember anything about these codices. So it's like a book, but it's made out of lead. Interesting. Huh, that's cool. Jordan codices. Maybe I'll write that one down. And an Angel remembers 2010 for that website. I saw the exact same site saying 2010. It's changed. Yeah, the other thing is I'm going to have to look. I remember I actually read a whole bunch of the initial Mandela Effects that were on that website. I think I've read it several times. I would come back to it and read it. I don't know. I was just kind of, it's one thing I read a bunch of times. So I wonder if those have changed, because if it happened in 2009, I guess you could still spot all the same Mandela effects 1 year earlier for most of them. Is Eva sick? Her voice sounds different. I was sick last week and my voice is still a little toasted, but it's got a lot better. But this is not my normal voice. However, I have noticed that after I have one of these, my voice tends to return just a tiny bit lower than before. But yeah, my regular voice should be back by next week, hopefully. Don't remember it going into space either. The the Russian space shuttle. Yeah, I looked into it when I first heard about it, and the argument then was you probably never heard about it because it didn't do well and it was unsuccessful. So I feel both hazy and I'm in deja vu so much lately. You know, deja vu is one thing I don't experience. I know I'm kind of unusual that way, but I've just never had it. Plenty of other weird things, but that one, nope. I don't seem to get those. Supposed to be the metal codices are supposed to be the life of Jesus. Oh, I'm gonna have to check in that a little more. Then, what are they saying about the life of Jesus? Is interesting. Yeah, see, it's not really saying what's on there. Somewhere on there, maybe here, maybe it's saying that, but yeah, it's not really saying what's on the things. A hoard of ancient books made of lead and copper. Up to 70 ring-bound books made of lead and copper. Scrolls, tablets, and other artifacts. Incense bowl. It's a lot of stuff to be forged. That's one thing to consider. Usually they forge one thing, not like 70 books. Some are written in Aramaic Hebrew script with ancient messianic symbols. Some of the writings appear to be in a form of code. Found between 2005 and 2007. All right, they're really not saying much about what's in there, though. Interesting, the U.S. space shuttle stopped flying in 2012. Yeah, I'm not a good date person on average. I'm not sure on that one. There's one huge ME that I have, though, is that for me, the last mission, there was a second mission that killed people. They all burnt up on re-entry, apparently. For me, they made it. They didn't burn up on re-entry, but they almost did it, and that mission control thought they probably would burn up on re-entry because the tiles were so damaged, but they made it. But they grounded the shuttle anyway because they said that it was such a close call with the tiles and that the astronauts might have died. So last I checked, about 6 months ago, the reality was that they landed the shuttle stopped flying because of the death of those astronauts, and they didn't have a solution for what caused it. So I remember learning Hitler killed himself in a jail cell before he was to be executed. Yeah, nope, that's not my timeline. Gunshot to the head, one. Now, what I remember is that the body was toted off and disposed of, and we didn't have it. Lately, I've been hearing that the Russians have a little bit of the body now. So that's different because we didn't have the DNA or anything. You couldn't. So there was a big conspiracy theory that that wasn't Hitler. But if they have parts of his body now, oops, sorry. If they have parts of his body now, they could have easily just did DNA testing. So it's kind of weird. Now they found a mirror in a Bronze Age warrior's tomb, a 3,500 years old mirror. Yeah, you know tech is just going backwards. I remember double suicide for him. Yeah, himself and Ava. Ava Braun was it was not Eva for me, it was Ava. They always wondered if he had a double. See, now I remember that um he was wrapped in a carpet and toted out and nobody saw the body and they didn't have the body. So there was all this conspiracy theory that it may have just been anybody in that rolled up in that carpet. Shari's been having a lot of jaw pain. You might want to check in and see if you're grinding, if you have like bruxism where you grind your teeth at night. Because one of my other friends suddenly got that, and it's weird because he's really a chill person, so you just wouldn't really think that he'd be having this weird nervous tick at night. So it seems like it's getting pretty common that people would grind their teeth at night. I don't really understand how that works, but I mean, apparently it happens, and it causes a lot of jaw pain. Also, what's that one? There's a word for it where your nerves are inflamed, and so it hurts in the jaw. What was the name of that one? Somebody else I know has that. What was that called? It's called oh yeah, trigeminal neuralgia. Uh, and if she gets stressed out, it just hurts, and she has to eat soft foods and stuff. There's not The thing with trigeminal neuralgia is that they can't really, I mean, they don't really know what causes it. It could give you painkillers. I mean, they know it's irritation of the trigeminal nerve, but they don't know what causes the irritation. Causes branches of the forehead, cheek, and lower jaw. It is usually limited to one side of the face. My friend gets it on both sides, though. They treat it with anticonvulsive medications. It's something to look into. It seems to be kind of a common problem nowadays. It's supposed to be really, really painful, too. I'm not saying none of this is related to ME. I'm just, that is the official story. So anyway, yeah, skull changes are ongoing. So actually, that I don't know. I haven't covered it yet, but there's some changes in the back of the skull right now. I've mentioned that there's fissures here on the orbital now. Yeah, here was on. It's on the orbital. That didn't used to be on there. It used to be cranial fissures. Then they changed the name. What was it? Now it's called cranial sutures, not fissures. They're cranial sutures. But there's also sutures in other places, not not just on the skull part, not on the just on the cranium part. So they're not really cranial sutures anymore. They're just skull sutures, basically. Huh, that's weird. So you were found to have a small chip on the incisor and it was causing massive pain. I've not really heard of such a thing like that. I actually have a split and like I split one of my teeth and it's weird. It's kind of healed back up over time. It didn't split all the way down to the base. It hurt when I did it, but then it didn't ever hurt after that. Do you remember the Rafflesia naldi flower? Let me see if it's is that stink flower? The stink flower I saw about 5 years ago. Rafflesia Arnaldi. Oh, that one. You know, it's gotten a lot bigger. I saw that one. Okay, this is not the giant stink flower. It's a smaller one. Oh, it is supposed to be the biggest one. They had this huge one that would go up like this. And it was like taller than a man. So biggest flower in the world? I don't think so. Because the one that I was looking at was much bigger than this. Now, when this first came out, they were just like this big. So they are way bigger now than this one when this one came, unless there's still another version that's smaller. Like it would just be like half the size of this one was when they first came out. Let's see if I can find that other one. See, they're saying that's the largest flower in the world. This is the flower I remember. Corpse stink flower. Look at the size. It looks bigger than the other one. It's like as tall as a person. So I'm not sure how they say that other one was bigger. So supposedly it stinks. All right, that looks like it's a different that looks like a different one. Huh. All right, I don't know why they're saying this one's the biggest one unless it's weight. At the time, many peeps were saying they have toothache or problems. Yeah, I don't know. There was a streak there a couple years ago where everybody I know had tooth problems. I did not, knock on wood, but I mean, everybody was just going to the dentist and toothaches and teeth falling out, and it was ugly. Sundew plants are new for me too. Let's check that one out. Interesting. Oh, they're cool looking. Now, are these another one of, yeah, looks like one of those insect eaters. Wow, those are cool. We just had like Venus flytraps. Some very simple versions of those were all we had before. I think these are the ones with the sticky, tasty mucus bits too. Green with red tentacles. Neat. Yeah, I can't say I'm shocked there's a lot of new Venus flytrap things. According to my dentist, the chip was caused by the early growth of my wisdom tooth. However, he said the pain I felt could not be a result of it. Old timeline, everybody got those. They would pull them out because everybody got those, but not every. All right, so where are we now that I've caught up with you guys? All right, this one is the story of the day, basically. Now, we talked before about the back of the head having that weird bump back there. So this has gone pretty viral. Some of you probably heard of it. They are saying that the younger kids are growing horns in the back of their head. Here's an example of one. They're claiming it's from bending over looking at your phone. I don't know. I'm kind of suspicious about that because, kids, when we were kids, we bent over and looked at video games. We bent over and looked at books. I don't know. I'm really suspicious about that. And a lot of people said that the last year when they were talking about the occipital bump back there, that they don't remember that, the occipital bun. So now it's becoming a horn, basically. And a large percentage of kids are supposedly growing a horn. Phone use is causing young people to grow horns on their skulls. That is the latest story. So it's just a few millimeters, so it's not like humongous, but weight shifts from spine to muscles at back of head. Extra pressure can cause bone spurs to form where the skull meets connecting tendons. Supposedly they're not dangerous, though. She notes the research does not prove that smartphone use causes the horn-like structures. Rather, the researchers found the bony protrusions are more common among young people and made an educated guess as to the reason. That's actually a good point, but they're blaming it on the phone. But basically, young people are growing these protrusions on the back of their heads, so who the heck knows why for sure. Do you have a horn growing at the back of your skull? You can probably feel it by running your hand over the lower part of the back of your head. I don't know. We've been discussing this for a while. There is more bumpiness back there. Oh no. It used to be a bump. Now it's a horn, basically. Creepy. What about back in the day when they were over a typewriter all day? Yeah. Now they are saying the story is that historically a small percentage of the population had it, but now a lot of the younger kids have it. So I guess they could argue those few people who typed a lot got one, but I don't remember that ever being the case. We've been watching The Skull for the past 3 years. Saw many images of the occipital bun. There was never a horn-like projection on any of them. So I'm a little suspicious on that one. Oh yeah, she's talking about the land growth of the fingers. A lot of um a lot of the land growth. You're comparing these horns to the fingers that are growing on a lot of the land. Global map. I do have a theory about those fingers. See if I can find one where you can zoom. Okay, so say up here we've noticed these fingers on Alaska, for instance. I think France is growing some lately too. Oh yes, you can click on this. So these fingers here, it follows kind of a pattern that I've noticed. Obviously, Australia's got a bunch on the top now. You know, Australia kind of trips me out because if you actually flipped it over and then kind of smoothed off those bumps, that's about the shape I remember it used to be. It's almost like it's reversed shape. It looks upside. When I look at it, it looks upside down now. So okay, so the fingers. I've mentioned this before, but I think that what we're getting is protected waterways. So we've got all of this waterway in the Norway, Sweden peninsula growing here. All these lakes are joining up. Look, this region here is almost attached to the Mediterranean now. So there's going to be one long waterway there. Over here, this waterway under Korea has been fitting in. And then you see the islands coming close to the ocean or close to the mainland and forming protected waterways in there. So it seems like that's the pattern. There's like, I know in the Bible it says there'll be one big long river eventually, and I wonder if this is the development of that, basically. God, South America looks so flat now. Looks like it lost weight and went on a diet. South America is not looking its normal thickness. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, it looks really thin. Look at that. All the maps. Look at how thin it is in that map. It's even worse. It's really looking, not to mention, of course, way east compared to the old spot. There, it just, I don't know. South America is not looking right. But I guess that's here nor there. From the side, Greenland's looking like a horse head. Looks like a horse head, kind of. I think I might be stretching it a bit much, though. I'd rather everyone get through the changes and it be like heaven on earth with lost loved ones. Or at least a good place. I'm not going to be that choosy. Talking about how close France and France is to what's that one next to it? The space in between the two land masses are tiny now. The big one for me is England. It's so close. The UK is so close to the mainland now. Bubbles thinks we're going to have lots of flooding. When you say the word flooding, it just reminds me of it. It sounds like there's going to be cities underwater, but we're not seeing that because the cities are moving to the side. They're not. There's not a lot of death or anything involved. Even with all these big tragedies, a lot of them are places that I've never even heard of before. They're just not Some of them are ones that we suspect to be Mandela Effect places. I'm really suspicious about those lands, how real they are, basically. Iceland looks closer to the UK. Not sure on that one. Ireland is very close to the UK, yes. Texas coast is very different, yeah. Texas has kept its shape overall, unlike a lot of the states, though. But I've seen Sicily when it touched Italy, and when it wasn't, then it was, then it wasn't. Ah, interesting. Oh, it looks like somebody has donated. Yes, and thank you, $2. Appreciate that. I actually do have a little warning bell, but it has to go through the headphones, so I don't always hear it that well. Now they're saying UV light kills the flu. UV light kills the flu. Oh, that's kind of cool. Just go outside, get some rays. A certain spectrum of UV light called UVC. Oh, interesting. Now, if I remember correctly, at least in the old timeline, they said that UVC rarely made it past the atmosphere and caused cancer. Basically, it's the stronger UV lights. Disinfecting success of initial experiments still needs to be confirmed. The use of overhead low-level UVC light in public locations would be safe and efficient method for limiting transmission of airborne mediated diseases. Okay, well, in the old timeline, they used to say UVC was quite bad and caused cancer. But hey, maybe it's perfectly fine here. Dang it, why do I keep hitting the mic? Yeah, I don't know. We're seeing a lot of reports of less deadly radiation. Chernobyl, you've got all the thriving animals, etc., etc. So I don't know what to think about all that. A lot of places seem washed out to me. Canada is hugely different. Canada has a lot more lakes and rivers, that's for sure. Nikola Tesla was the first to use UV light to kill germs. Quite possibly in this timeline. One thing I noticed, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, is that they're saying to if you're like in a survival situation, you drink the top layer of water if the water is still, because the UV light helps disinfect that water. And I had never heard of that before. About 5 years ago. I watch a lot of those survival shows, so I was pretty surprised when they said that. Where's Dark Wolf? Yeah, I don't know. I really, people show up as they show up, so I can't say. Hopefully Dark Wolf's having a party somewhere, doing something fun. Charles Schultz is now Charles Scholes. Yep, that's an older Emmy, I do agree with. But yeah, that one, I heard that one maybe 2 years ago, that Schultz Emmy. Did anyone notice that polarized sunglasses no longer work at all? It not block any type form of white sun. It could be used to proof the sunlight is actually not UV anymore, but another type. Interesting. You know what? I've never done the polarized sunglass thing. So, I mean, so many things have changed about the way the light works, because you've got all those weird rainbows and the light, the sunset light on the opposite side of the sun, where the sun is setting. That's weird. I'm I'm not sure about Dark Wolf. Maybe he's over at Susso's channel. He is having a live stream talking with Scarab. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. The lakes in Canada are ridiculous. There's water everywhere. That's something I really noticed about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. Julie, $1. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. A lot of these Emmys are yours today. There are a few states without income tax. They have other high taxes to make up for their lack of income tax. Those states still have like higher sales tax, other ways to get your tax. The one thing about income tax is it allows them to tailor the tax to fit how much money you have. Sales taxes hit everybody pretty much the same unless they're just taxing like Ferraris and stuff. But usually if there's a tax, it'll be on all the cars the same, all the trucks the same. These days, almost everybody has to have a vehicle, so everybody gets the tax. You may pay more if you get a more expensive vehicle, but you are going to pay the tax. Now, with income tax, they can do things like not tax you on the first 10,000 or 15,000, and then step up the tax. So income tax is better at equalizing. If you want to have a flat tax on everybody, then that would be like a sales tax. I personally don't think they should tax food and required things. And I do think at this point that a vehicle is basically a required thing because it's very hard to get a job if you don't have one. I mean, even my job, I have to get to it and then I have to get to the post office. So I could probably squeak by with like a scooter, but it would be difficult, especially if I had a lot of packages. I could have them come and pick them up. That would be another option too. I'd still have to get to work though. And sometimes I pick up stuff for work and sometimes they're big. So that would be another problem. When I get big shipments, they sometimes come into the post office, heavy rocks. I can't imagine I'd be carrying 5 boxes of rocks, big boxes of rocks on a scooter. So more and more people realize how they are legally slaves now. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that, and I've thought about this a lot since I learned of the Mandela Effect. A lot of people complain about the millennials being whiny and not wanting to work as hard and being unrealistic expectations. I mean, to some extent, there are definitely spoiled millennials and the younger generations as well. Maybe a little more spoiled than some of us were at that time. But at the same time, you've got this whole couple generations of people wanting something better. And when you say slaves, I wouldn't go that far, but basically, a lot of people have to work really hard, and 8 hours a day, and then now a lot of people have to do double income. The wife doesn't get to stay home, so you're working all day, then you've got to clean the house. If you have kids, that's even more of a ridiculous strain, trying to take care of them and still work full time. So I could definitely see that they feel like a slave. I mean, I don't have kids, so that makes my life a lot easier as far as the amount of labor that I have to perform. But what if I did? I mean, it would be extremely difficult. So you almost feel like a slave because you're working all day. There's probably so many house chores on the weekend. I mean, I even kind of feel that, and I don't have kids. So it's just like work, 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 work. So I think that it is good that people are getting sick of that, because if we are going to remake reality, then maybe we really do need to demand that we have more of a reasonable work schedule with more time for, being human instead of a workaholic. So, I mean, I think we have the technology now We have enough tech to streamline a lot of the production. The problem is the more efficient things get, they don't drop the prices because the prices are determined by demand. So even if it costs them 1 cent to make something, they may sell it for $5. So the top levels are just getting richer and richer. It's not percolating down. Maybe what we gotta have is more demand, that it be more balanced. That it be, the rich people can still be rich. They'll just be a little less rich, but they won't be like hurting. It's not like you can't get up to the top and do well. It's just, you know, I don't know what the current stats are, but I know that I had researched this in the past, and it used to be that the bottom person in an organization, say like the guy flipping the burgers and running the cash register, would make about 1/30th of what the top guy would make. So the top guy, the owner of the company, the CEO, those kind of people would make 30 times more than that bottom guy. So if the bottom guy made like $10 an hour, then the top guy would get $300 an hour. Now that's a pretty big stretch. I mean, the top guy is still raking the dough. And he probably is not doing 30 times more work than the bottom guy, I think it's fair to say. However, that's the past, and now they've gotten to where the top guy will make 200, 300 times more than the bottom guy. And there is just no freaking way he is that valuable. He's not 200 to 300 times harder working and smarter than the bottom person. A lot of times these guys now are just trying to look at the next quarterly report and make it look higher. They cut all these corners and do all this tricky business just so they can make that one quarterly report look good, and they don't even look ahead to other quarters that much. And they're getting all this money and kickbacks and advances because they've tweaked it to make the quarterlies look better. Maybe the whole company will collapse in 5 years, but what does he care? He's got his golden parachute. So these are the kind of problems I think that really need to be addressed, is that it's just this money is all going to the top. It is not going at all. It's not being evenly dispersed. I think we have the technology now that people could work a lot less and live comfortably. And I do think that maybe all these whiny, spoiled, complaining millennials, if you want to call that, maybe that's what we need. Maybe we just need to have people who go, I don't want to do it anymore. Even though we did it and we were stoic and we sucked it up, maybe that wasn't the right thing. I don't know. It doesn't mean I won't get irritated if someone's whiny, but maybe that's what we need. If employees don't show up, they have to shut down the plant. If the director doesn't show up, nobody cares or even knows. So why should he earn so much? Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times, I swear to you, having worked at the bottom and depending on the quality of your manager, but fairly often we would get more done when the manager wasn't there because they would be constantly switching priorities. You're trying to work on yesterday's priority, like, stop doing that, now we're doing this. Okay, I'm starting. So you push that aside, you set up for the new thing. Oh no, now we're doing this. It was just easier to, and we knew what really had to get done, and if the manager wasn't there, we could just get that stuff done, the really important stuff. It was like, now finally we can fix the machines and fix the tools and sort things out so we can be efficient. And millennials are the future, that's right. Now they are close to the whole body scanner, just like Sci-Fi, Explorer 3D. Yeah, and we've got the cell phones are a lot like the old communicators on Star Trek too. So true about managers. Yeah, I've been on both ends. I've had good managers, and when the good manager comes in, you're like, manager, I'm stuck. Help, help. But oh, we've had some bad ones. Oh my God. There's definitely a lot of them that are not worth their 5 cents. Part of the problem is a lot of managers I've had got there by their smooth talking skills. They were just able to schmooze, but they don't know how the business operates. They're not that smart. They, other than their ability to talk smoothly, they don't know how to prioritize. A lot of them didn't really have very much common sense. They didn't have much experience in the actual labor that we were doing. They didn't understand how long it took to do things. They didn't understand the problems involved. Replicators next, maybe. Oh, we're almost there, Moonlit Illusion. The replicators, aka 3D printers. This was actually something about 10 years ago I thought would be bigger by now, but it will come. It will come. It will come. Can you imagine? Okay, this is totally un-ME related, but I think I just feel like yapping today, so you're going to get stuck with it. When I first heard about 3D printers, imagine if this happens, and I think it will, it's a matter of when, I'm not sure when, but it will happen, that 3D printers become similar to regular printers. Remember, regular printers used to be giant beasts. They would just have one in the whole school for the teachers. And then now we have little cheesy ones that will sit on your desk for, $50. Okay, so printers have come a long, long way. 3D printers will go the same route. So just imagine they're getting there now. They're getting where they can print metal as well as plastic, a variety of things. We're not there yet. I mean, they do have metal printers that print metal, but they're expensive. $10 from Anded. Thank you. I'm extra wealthy today. Very much appreciate it. Okay, so imagine this. Everybody has a little laptop, desktop 3D printer. The material to print is fairly cheap. Just like ink now, especially if you have those tank systems like I have on my printer, they're fairly cheap. The cartridge ones are not cheap, but the tank system ones are cheap. Imagine everybody has that. All right. Imagine it's pretty quick. All right. So, say this salt shaker here, it's pretty cool. Maybe I want that, but it'll maybe a little taller so I could put more salt in it. Scan this, take an image of it, pull it a little out with a program would probably they have the CAD CAM programs, but I'm sure that they'll make simpler ones for us regular schleps. Alter the shape, send it to your 3D printer, and 5 minutes later, say I would like it to be light purple to match, I don't know, it wouldn't now, I don't have light purple, but say I have light purple curtains, light purple forks, and I love light purple. So I want everything light purple, but my 3D printer, no problem, just print light purple. All right, so now who lost money there? You're not going to buy it online. You're not going to buy it at Walmart. Look at Walmart. How much of that crap they have in there is tiny little crap stuff that could be printed on if you had a fast 3D printer, you'd just print it. I mean, 2/3 of Walmart is tiny little crap stuff. It doesn't need good metal. A lot of it's plastic. 3D printers can print moving parts. So you could print, like, say, a clock, and then maybe just stick. If 3D printers could print metal, they could do the whole clock, and then you'd just put in like a battery, and it would run. It would be able to print the cord. If it could do metal plus plastic, it would be able to do the cord. You could print electronic devices. I mean, Walmart would go out of business, and so would half the freaking stores in the planet would be out of business. A lot of big stuff could be printed in strips and then snapped together. So basically, that would change everything. The economy would be just totally topsy-turvy. So maybe that's why it hasn't happened yet. I think it won't happen until we're ready for it to be happening. And I wonder if the millennials might be part of that. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just, guessing, but I feel very I think I just feel very today I just feel like thinking of these things, just concepts. I don't know, but 3D printer is simply amazing. You know what I saw, a Silver E55, just a few weeks ago. They have a printer now that it prints it all at once. Somehow there's like some kind of fluid, and then it does a holographic print projection. So the whole thing is printed at once instead of going bloop, 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 like that and building it. It just flashes the whole thing at once. So that's even more like a replicator. All you'll be missing is the funny sound and the little sparkles like on Star Trek. And it might be a while, excuse me, it might be a while before they have food too. I actually think that might be more of a challenge because you'd need all those vitamins and minerals, and it would have to be healthy. And so far, no artificial stuff has been as healthy as the real deal. So we have a long way to go on that. God, excuse me. Do you remember the Equal Pay Act in 1963? No, but you know what? I wasn't alive then, so that could be part of the problem. I remember the bra burning 60s and 70s. Excuse me. I don't usually sneeze that much. The Equal Pay Act. I'm kind of curious now. 1963. Aimed at abolishing wage disparity based on sex. Signed into law in 1963 by John F. Kennedy. That's interesting. No, I don't remember them doing diddly squat about that I mean, in the 70s, I don't remember there being anything like that. I mean, I heard a lot of people complaining it was unfair, but I don't remember there being a law. That's interesting. I mean, that it's certainly something I might not have known, but that is definitely interesting. We can 3D print like metals like titanium. Anybody understand what that means? Well, are you talking about bombs, or are we talking about but yeah, we can print those, but right now we kind of suck and it's really expensive. So it's easier for them to just make the item in the conventional way much of the time. They do the 3D printing metal now for things that are like one of a kind one-offs, or they only need a few, or some kind of really weird part that is hard to do. Like one thing for conventional manufacture, they have a lot of trouble doing honeycomb constructions and really fancy weird shapes. So 3D printing is extra good for that. But right now metal printing is very expensive, but it will come down, and when the price comes down is when we're going to start to see some stuff. So yeah, that's what I was saying. They're metal printers already, but the price is exorbitant right now. And they don't have the really high quality metal for like the really good like airplanes and stuff like that, because you need a really high quality tempered sturdy metals for those. To my knowledge, they don't quite have that quality yet for the really tricky stuff. But like I said, I do believe it'll come, and it's only a matter of time. So I always thought that before I knew of the ME, I thought the next revolution would be 3D printing. And it made me glad that I happen to be in an industry that may be unaffected, because I sell natural items, so none of them are manufactured. One of the few things you don't manufacture is natural items. So, but anyway, so now I'm just wondering how all that'll play in. But here's what I like to see for the future is basically if you I do think that people still would want to work some, but I think that we're getting the tech now that we could basically ensure a fairly easy life to the average person, even if they didn't work. I mean, the cost of medical is so exorbitant now; it's ridiculous. With increasing tech, I think people could have like a tiny little studio apartment and basic food supply and medical. I think we're getting to where they could have that. Now, if they want, and you can have a pretty good life that way. You're not going to be jet setting around France, but I mean, unless you live in France, you don't need any more. I think we can get to that. Suddenly, I'm all scratchy throated. I think it's totally possible. I think also people will get bored and want to work some just because they're bored. But I think that that's what we need to get to. I mean, that doesn't, you're not going to have the Taj Mahal in the latest car, but I think we can get there. I assume if technology was early and more advanced, that feminism would be earlier too. I think we're seeing traces of that. I don't know if your assumption is right, but I'm seeing a lot more women in history now, in inventions. They're saying, oh, this woman actually invented this and not this man. She got ripped off. There's a lot more women just doing man jobs way in the past. There are chocolate 3D printers. Yeah, see, the thing is that a tech to like melt chocolate and like splatter it and build it up into a pile is really not that fancy. Basically, you're just taking a liquid chocolate and just building up. I mean, it sounds really cool because everybody likes chocolate, but do you think that in the past 3D were used to make sculptures, as John Levi suggests? I don't know that guy, but I don't know what to make of the past. It keeps changing, so um, there is a like a okay. We know the thinker's a big Mandela effect. Used to be this, now it's the mouth. It's now the knuckles eating position. Um, I don't know. I did do a video on this like a year ago that there are many the thinkers, and there's this copy machine that copied them. So it could be something like that, but who knows? In 5 years, the history may say a whole different thing. The history may say what John Levi says, or the history may say what some other YouTuber says. I don't even know. Do we even know which way? Maybe for you, it will say what John Levi says, and for me, I'll go a different path. I mean, we don't even know if we'll end up in the same place. So I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't be that weird though, compared to what we've seen. Seen amputees print out new hands. Yeah. See, um, for a lot of those hand printing and stuff, they can do plastics for a lot of those, so that makes it easier. But yeah, CAD CAM design programs. I think if we start getting desktop printers that are really actually fairly useful, don't take 3 hours to print something, and the item is useful and easy to print, I think we'll also see design programs that are a lot easier. Sort of like how everybody and his uncle now can do Photoshop and make a fake photo. And even CGI is getting much more in the hands of the regular folks now. I think we'll see that also with 3D printing. Is there a current direct understanding of Earth predicament and rapid flux geometric changes in extreme short time intervals? Is there a current direct understanding? Nope, I don't think so. I mean, I've certainly there are people who think they know it's the devil doing it. It's CERN. Um, I don't think there's any consensus. I don't know. I don't know what's doing it. I mean, I look for the patterns. I hope that the patterns might give me a clue, but I don't know. I don't know. In my opinion, we should be working about 16 hours a week. Yeah, I'm not really sure on that. I do think that 40 is a bit much, especially if you have kids. I mean, 20 or 30. It probably depends on you as a person, too. If you really like your work, you probably want to work more. Military technology is always 50 years behind what we think is new. I used to hear 30. I guess they're saying 50 now. I really don't know now. I mean, all that stuff you don't know about, does it exist beyond what you know? I mean, it's that old if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, is it real? We any minute now they can pull out something and go, this has always been what the government was up to behind your back. And maybe for you it'll be this, and for me it'll be that. And, I don't know. I've just gotten really suspicious about all of reality now. Buy a 3D printer, print out a 3D printer, and return your original 3D printer to the supplier. Actually, that's pretty funny. Kind of scary and brings up a whole new can of worms now that you mention it. I had not thought of that, but yeah. Oh my God. So who's going to make the money? It's going to be the people who supply the stuff that goes into a 3D printer. Oh, they're going to need a lot of metal and a lot of plastic. Yeah, oh my gosh, that is so true. All you need is one if you could barf out more of them. Now, first of all, I suspect that whatever printer you have would not be able to, well, I don't know. I want to say it will not be able to make something its own size. It would only be able to make something smaller. That is true for current printers. But this flash thing I saw where it projected like a holographic image onto this vat of liquids and instantly flash froze somehow with radiation. It crystallized all at once. The item, that is like a projector system. So I don't see anything long term actually preventing them from making something just as big as the original printer. That's an interesting concept. It's a very interesting concept. Just hope that they don't become sentient. We might have trouble. All right, so where am I? Let's get back to the ME. All right, we got Zombie Snake, Frog Sashimi was Julie Holcomb, Telephone Poles of Kansas, Julie Holcomb, Early Electric Cars, Julie Holcomb, because she's been busy. Okay, this one is mine. Oh, you know what? I do want to cover this one other one I haven't even finished. Got the horns. All right. I've talked about this guy's channel, Mr. MBB333, and I had talked about how I thought it was really weird that he said that he noticed that the moon was rotating, but he just didn't seem to care that much. I mean, he just thought it was mildly interesting. So today, was this today? Yesterday? No, a couple days ago, he put out this video. So somebody sent this in. Now, he claims this is an unedited picture of the moon. This is not the sun. This is the moon. Look at how bright it is. Very bright. And now he claims it's unedited. Generally, you can just check the history of the photo if it's still on there. There's a fancy word for that. But basically, photos, when they're transmitted, often have the history of all alterations. So he could probably just open that and see, like, what camera it was taken on, at what time, and that basic info. And if the image has been fed through a were like some kind of a Photoshop or something, that info will actually get tacked on there. So he could probably just pop that open and see if it's been at all cropped. Sometimes it's tricky because just because it's in Photoshop does not mean it's been really tampered with. I mean, sometimes they're just cropping it down to get the crap out of it. Maybe they're making it look straight. It doesn't mean that they've really done some funny stuff. There are some other things you can do to check. I don't know it as well as most people, but I do know a little more than average on that. But there, let's just basically, there's ways for him to check this that he could claim that and it would probably be true. I mean, they could be faked, but it would probably be true. So he's claiming this is an unaltered photo. People are flipping out because it's so bright. It's bright like the sun. He goes on to say that he has figured it out, and the answer is that it is dust from the Sahara, was in the region at the time. And then you can see in the comments that people practically pop their balloon over this. This guy's joking. It's swamp gas. LOL, dust made the moon look like the sun. I don't know what about that one, Chief. Let's talk about it. It's once in a lifetime dust. This is BS. The moon is not right. Nothing is going to be normal. Come on, really? Saharan dust. I'm in Britain and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is just interesting because he kind of had a revolt on here when he tried to claim this is from dust. And I think it's really interesting. I posted this, and it's a quote from Isaiah 30:26. The moon will shine like the sun, and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days. So we've seen that the sun is a lot brighter. I don't know if it's 7 times brighter. We've seen the moon a lot brighter. I would not have said up until today that we had seen it as bright as the sun. But it's getting there. It's getting there. And this is a quote from the end times of the Bible. So, I don't know. It's getting there. That's all I got to say. I've seen the yeah, now some people on here are saying it's photoshopped. But I have seen it look pretty darn bright and pretty darn orange. If you're always working, tired, and fearful, then you cannot rebel against the system. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes people rebel against the system because they're tired and fearful and they are up against a wall. I wonder if we were fat and lazy and satisfied, and how much rebelling then would you get? I mean, do rich people want to rebel against the system? No, they love the system because it made them fat and lazy and rich. They're not going to mess with the system. So I don't know if that assumption is accurate. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I don't accept it as fact either. We are at the point now that we should be trying to replicate food. You know, I just, who knows what sudden advances we'll make, but all the artificial food, even the stuff that is not through a replicator, is basically crap. You know, it health wise, it's just terrible. So I don't know. I think we're miles away from that right now. I mean, that is like the last thing that I think we're going to find. Now, we are seeing a lot of new food sources, though, as Mandela effects. New mushrooms. I've shown those giant, creepy mushrooms that are supposed to be like health foods. You've got those weird funguses that grow on the caterpillars. The mind control funguses are now sold as health foods. There's a lot of new plants that are edible. So we may just get more food that way, too. Terrible food for the sake of convenience. I just don't know of any artificial food that's really worth a darn health wise. I mean, noodles aren't healthy. Rice is about as close as it gets. Rice is empty calories. There's no nutrients whatsoever in there. Even when you get the whole grain rice, you don't digest most of that stuff because although there are vitamins in that husk, our now maybe this will change, but our bodies are not currently designed to break down that kind of fiber and get at those vitamins. That's what cows have all those stomachs for it. So a lot of people think they're eating such and such vitamins with this whole grains. Most of that stuff is not getting digested. And then you have a lot of other things in there that can cause digestion problems. So it's not that simple. And there's been a lot of vegans that got really sick because they just did not have the gut strength to really digest some of that stuff. I'm not saying all of them, and it probably depends on how you balance your diet as well. But did you talk about sharks eating birds? I don't know if I've covered that exact one, but they've definitely been a lot of video of that. Alligators eating birds. There's those alligators now that they actually lure birds in by putting a twig on their nose and acting like a log. And then during nesting season, the birds come down to get that twig, and then the alligator goes whoosh. Incredible level of intelligence. Basically, we have a tool using alligator. Way back in the day, they would say that only humans use tools. Then they had to admit that some chimps use tools. Well, alligators use tools now. They use twigs. Artificial meat production, no animal would suffer. Yeah. Um, I'm interested in how that pans out, definitely. It wouldn't be replicated, but not in the sense like the 3D printers, but cellular mitosis, possibly. Possibly. People are too lazy to grow stuff, myself included. Yeah, I mean, but if you got plants that say hardly needed any water and you just go out there and pick the stuff and eat it. Also, our tastes are changing. I'm definitely more attracted to those natural foods now. I mean, I'll stroll outside and I'll pick off a persimmon off my tree and I'll eat it, even though I'm massively lazy. I'm not that lazy. And persimmons taste good too. The homegrown ones do, at least. Orangutan fishing with a spear. Yep. All kind of animals use tools now. Butter bad, butter good, eggs bad, eggs good. Yeah, when I was a kid, the old timers used to go, "Oh, they say this and then they say that, and I'm just gonna do whatever I want." And I was very dismissive of them, and I was like, "Well, we just know better now, and that's all." Well, all that same crap is still happening 40 years later. First they say this, then they say that. Now I'm the old timer, and I'm like, "Yep." Last week there were 6 food recalls: hepatitis A, E. coli, plastic, and rocks. Well, some of those, if you just cook your food, that's going to help a lot. E. coli is just cook it. Rocks. Yeah, I don't know about that. Do not eat the rocks. I love fruit a lot more than I used to, I'll tell you that. Vegetarian here. It's a lot easier to be vegetarian than vegan. Definitely, though. First camera developed in 1500. Camera obscura. First pinhole camera was invented in Ibn al-Haytham. God, I can't stop coughing all of a sudden. First camera obscura. Let's see what we got that. Who invented the camera? Okay, now I've clicked on this before. It's highlighted. Sometimes I check into things, but then I decide not to put them on. Either I'm not sure, or it's too complicated, or I don't understand. Camera obscura and the pinhole camera, I've been very suspicious of it since I heard of it 3 years ago. The pinhole camera where it reverses onto your wall if there's a tiny light hole in your window. I don't remember anything like that, but I'm not really versed on those things. Early models were literally consisted of a large room or tent. Then portable variants were invented. They were wooden boxes that had lens instead of a pinhole, which can be moved to... Yeah, I don't know. Where do you even draw the line then? I don't know. I think that's why I never put it on. I don't know. Oh, no, that's nice. Thought you would call me a whiny vegan. Most vegans I have no issues with. I do think that it can be a lot harder to eat healthy when you're a vegan. You cut out a lot of stuff. So I think that you got to put some effort into it, thinking more about what you're eating to get all the nutrients you need. And it does seem that certain people do not do that well on it, and it might be a genetic thing. I mean, if you were an Inuit and for thousands of years your race ate nothing but whale blubber, and then you tried to be a vegan, you might have a lot more problems than somebody from, say a tropical region that their system historically ate a lot of vegetation. So I don't think it's that simple. And on the reverse, if you have the genetics of a race that did not eat much meat, you could have problems going the other way. So I don't think it's that simple. But, most vegans are really cool. It's just a small percentage that gives, I guess that's true with everybody. There's always a small percentage of any group that easily gives the rest of the group the bad name. And there are a certain bunch of vegans that go around and attack anybody who eats anything that is not vegan. And so those are the ones that I think people think of. Not all the other ones who are minding their own beeswax, eating what they want. Probably the third or fourth time this summer a storm hits out of nowhere. Yeah, I've noticed that there's just been a ton of video on giant storms in different parts of the USA. I'm like, is this not the summertime now? Shouldn't we be hearing about heat waves? But no. First spy camera, 1922. Oh, yeah, that was one I was going to cover. I saw it on Recon. Somehow. I don't think I put this one on. It was this big weird, there was, okay. Yeah, good find. Let me see if I can find that. Actually, there was, I think it was even earlier, 1890 from Spy Camera. Famous people in Norway in 1890 from Spy Camera of 19-year-old paparazzi. So, Spy Camera from 1890, peoples. Now, the image I saw when I first saw this was, there was this kind of a flat metal contraption that was fairly big, and it came forward in just a tiny little camera, and they would put this under their vest, and the camera would go through the buttonhole. and then they basically had the camera like hidden on their under their vest. Carl Stormer used spy cam to take picture of people in Oslo in the 19th century. I think this is the same one. So these are all the pictures he took. Yeah, that was on Retcon, and I thought it was highly suspicious. Chronovisor is great, but I think it's an urban tale. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. They even weigh the soul leaving the body. I've heard that story, to my knowledge, that research was never replicated, but also nobody ever tried to replicate it. So it's interesting. We lost power for 4 days in Dallas. Dang. You know, the weather for me in Texas is so different now. Way back, I don't know, we probably don't even come from same timelines, but way back, Texas just did not get like this flooding stuff that you get now. It was just more like California. I mean, it didn't float off like they do now. It was just like 2 or 3 years ago I first heard of this massive flooding. I thought it was the same. I thought it was a new thing, but then I found out, that you've always had that problem. I was really surprised. Last week you showed that fish jumping off the plate can't even eat tuna this past week. Yeah, I don't know. It's just muscles. A lot of the plants move now too, so, it's not that simple. They're starting to show more, the plants even are starting to show intelligence now. I mean, if you look into it, they're saying that, like the large redwood forests, the roots interlock, and the stronger trees support the weaker trees, and there's like a whole freaking democracy. But if the weaker trees don't contribute anything at all, then they're cut off and they die. I mean, the level of intelligence they're contributing to plants, you're going to have to just lay out in the sun and hope you can photosynthesize your own energy, because the plants even now are intelligent. So it's getting less and less simple. Chronovisor is supposedly a time machine. Okay, yeah, I don't really know about that one. I think about all the suffering. There is a German word for that feeling called Weltschmerz. Yeah, I don't know. I think it really comes down to what is reality. I mean, is it a giant video game and we all came and played a part? Then we think we're suffering, but we really just are like those idiots that climb Mount Everest. And I mean, you couldn't pay somebody to climb Mount Everest. The chance of death is really high. It's completely miserable and exhausting. I mean, and people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. You can't even be sure you'll make it. You're risking permanent damage, frostbite, all this crap. Why would people do that? Why would they spend thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to almost die and permanently damage their body? What in the F would be the point of that? I mean, that's way worse suffering than I live through on a daily basis, certainly, but people volunteer for that crap. So what if we volunteered for this crap? If somebody dies on Mount Everest, you're like, well, that's sad, but he knew what he was getting into because he picked going there. So what if the person who fails on Mount Everest magically materializes back in his homeland, and he goes, "Ow, it hurt," and wah wah wah, and they're like, well, that's the video game you chose to play. Well, maybe that's what here is. I don't know. Maybe it's a test and a video game environment, and when we're done, it's like when you sign off from World of Warcraft and go eat dinner. So in that case, then, all the suffering is what we chose. I mean, you might ask, well, why do people choose to do suffering? But what if you, for 500 years, never suffered once? Would you not get bored? Maybe after all that time, you go, I'm going to do a couple years suffering. I don't know. I think that there might be something to that, though. Humans really love their suffering. We go to movies that are miserable, full of violence and suffering, and we supposedly enjoy them. Then we pick weird goals like Mount Everest and suffer, suffer, suffer to get up there. Also, we can just say, woohoo, I was on the top for 5 seconds. Humans just love our misery. Ghosty 333, I'm at 2 hours and way too much talking, I know. Existence is a testing field for an upper degree, and death is a quantum death. Yeah, I've really wondered, things get wilder and wilder. I mean, maybe it's just an upper level, we're getting higher up in the game levels. Funny that 4 days with no power is considered unbelievable suffering. If it's hot enough, it's rather miserable. I agree there. But as long as you have food and water, at least. Is with anybody else now you can't watch Hollywood movies anymore or have no interest, very hard to watch. Yes, I'm definitely getting like that. I still like watching documentaries to some extent. I like What on Earth. There's a lot of Emmys on there. Neat stuff. All right. Now, so I have not made much progress on the pile of stuff. All right, got the horns. Got that one. Oh. All right, this one's a weird one. I have never heard of this before. Now, I have heard that as you age, you can lose several inches of height. That is only something I've heard in the last 10 years, but they say that as you age, and they say like your discs and your backbone compress and weight kind of smooshes you down. Okay, it sounds good. This is not something I've ever heard before. And that is that height varies drastically during the day. And by drastically, I mean like a couple inches. You can actually, supposedly when you're laying down, you spring out. And so when you get up in the morning, you're at your highest. And then you could be like an inch or two shorter by the night time. Discs slowly lose some of their height due to compressive forces. And you're back to being shorter at night again. The disc can be reduced up to 15% from compressive forces that happen during the day. So they're saying you could lose like an inch or two. How much taller do you get in the morning? I have never heard of this. You're usually 1 to 2 inches taller. So some of this argument about somebody fibbing about their height, I won't say who that was, but apparently you can have a 2-inch difference. You always measure yourself in the morning if you want to exaggerate. I have never heard of this. Never heard of this. This is totally, and it's not just like a few millimeters. That is a lot. That's a lot. So what, 2 inches? I don't know. Ugh. I've heard you get shorter with age many, many times. Many, many times in the last 10 years I've heard it. But I have not heard you get shorter with the time of day. I have never heard of that. I was just laughing so hard. 2 freaking inches. Two inches. Oh my gosh. I was just cackling when I saw that. I don't remember how I stumbled on that. Oh, sometimes I'm just looking at this and I look at that and I'm like, what? All right, this one is not as extreme, but it is along the same lines. So I always learn you're pretty much done growing by about 18. Um, Now it's some individuals will stop growing before 18. Many people, particularly men, continue to grow physically well into their mid 20s. All right. I have not, that is just not a thing. You were 20, you were done. You were done growing. So it seems like the growth period is getting stretched because they're saying you can, so well into your mid 20s. So that to me is about 25. I've never heard of that. And it couldn't have been something that was hard to figure out because doctors track your height, so I think they would know by now. They would have known by the 70s if you're still growing in your 20s or not. The reason why your height stops increasing is the growth plates or epiphyseal plates are areas of specialized cartilage. Apparently, when those like seal off, that stops growth. So, yeah, you could grow into your 20s now. So they're saying at the average of 18. Yeah, there's variations on here, but 18 was like it. You were like done. You were done at 18. Mandela affected $1. Thank you. Appreciate this very much. I lost an inch after I broke a vertebra. Well, maybe you just measured yourself at the wrong time of day. So 1 to 2 inches. So you could be like, maybe it depends on your height too. I don't know. You're like if you're already tall, there'll be more variation. If you're heavy, there might be more variation. Got to check my pants level in the morning versus night. So that's going to be, they're talking about the vertebrae. So I would say that your shirt level would be what you would check because the legs don't have any vertebrae. So those should not change much. Just the backbone region. So that's going to be, if it truly is just vertebrae, that's actually a good question. What exactly part of the body? I'm getting taller and taller, but just on the x-axis. Yeah, nice one. Look at your ears, they'll grow to your die. That's a new one for me too. I've only heard of that in the last year. This whole thing about why is people having big ears is totally creepy to me. Totally creepy. There was no continuing ear growth. They were just like the rest of your body. You grew till you were 18 and then you stopped. This whole continuing growth thing is a big popular deal on this timeline. Telomeres are getting shorter. Thunder rolling in, shaking the ground, not in the forecast. Nor is it currently in the weather report. That's interesting. The thunder here is a lot more rolly and grindy in my experience, too. Can't keep my eyes open. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. All right, let's continue on. All right. This one, I don't know how many of you remember wagyu beef. This is the spelling I remember. Wagyu. W-A-G-U, beef. Lately, it's all with a Y, wagyu beef. It's a special beef from Japan. The official spelling has a Y in it now. Wagyu beef. This one was discovered by Gritty Camaro, user nicknamed Greedy Camaro. Also, the wagyu is way better looking in this timeline with the marbling. I'd looked into it before and I was like so underwhelmed. I was like, I'm not paying all that money for something that's only slightly more marbled. But it's over the top now. It is nice looking marbling. That's ridiculous, the levels of fat. Look at that. It was nothing like that before. Nothing like that. That's insanity. It wasn't even half that good. Like even this one, like the low level ones are better than the ones I used to see being called wagyu beef, WAGU beef, not YU. Even this level of marbling is quite a bit more than the wagyu beef of my old timeline. So it got a Y and it got a lot more marbling. All right. All right, so we've talked about spiders killing mice. What else kills mice? Well, apparently they called it a bee, but it's a hornet. This bee killing a mouse. So apparently this hornet has attacked this mouse and killed it. Now, hornets are often carnivores, but I have never heard of, hornets can repeatedly sting too. So it's kind of a sad thing here watching this. But basically, this hornet kills this mouse and then drags it off. And what a way to go. Ugh. But I've never heard of a little old hornet killing a mouse. You would think that mouse would just turn around and bite it back. I don't know what to say. The little insects did not kill mice. I mean, I know mice are wimpy, but they were never that wimpy. All right, this is another one that I just discovered. I have never heard of this. Apparently horses... Okay, there's been a lot of talk because I guess Lone Eagle has kind of somewhat shut down his channel. But he did have one video back up there, and I watched it. And I know that he and I, the current version of him, is from a very different timeline than I'm from. A lot of the things he says are not the things he used to say with his old version. And his videos are full of Mandela Effects for me. And he has one on there where he has a Native American talking about stuff. And the legend of the white buffalo. The white buffalo is full of Emmys for me. Apparently in this timeline they would kill and eat the white buffaloes, the Native Americans. They considered it a sacred privilege and gift to be able to eat the white buffalo. In my timeline, they would never do that. There was only 2 of them. They would never kill it because there wasn't going to be another one maybe. I was just kind of, my mouth was hanging open. But another thing he mentioned in that video was that one of the horses was overworked and bleeding through the nose. I have never heard of horses bleeding through the nose. But apparently in this timeline, they do often do this if they are exercised hard. They're saying that race horses bleed through the nose. It's not really good for them, but they're not going to die or anything. So it's coming out of the lungs. I mean, in my old timeline, if you were bleeding in your lungs, you were going to die. So they're saying that a lot of horses bleed and it's back in like the throat, and some of them comes out the nose now. I've never heard of that. Horses should never be, because horses breathe through their nose, blah, blah. Wait, see. Horse nosebleed. Let me see if I can find it. Epistaxis. I have never heard of that. Bleeding from the nose, therefore cover anything from tiny trickle to heavy gushing. Most common cause of epistaxis is the horse's trauma to the head. All right. Let me go to the one that talks about... All right, there. Wait, it was here. I saw it. Exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage is a common condition that occurs in performance horses, those that undergo fast exercise. Often goes undetected. It can result in epistaxis. Rupture of capillaries in the lung due to enormous differences in pressure that occur during strenuous exercise. In my old timeline, if your lungs were bleeding, you were dead meat. Although adversely affecting athletic performance causes no illness unless associated with or followed by lung infection. More severe may result from a rupture of larger vessels, and this may be painful. It's often diagnosed and monitored by regular endoscopic examinations in performance horses. I think they were saying like 60% of race horses after a hard race will have lung bleeding. I'm just like, no. No. The Japanese hornet, no. Watch and don't get scared. You will not believe it. All right, I'm looking. You made me. Bloop. Oh, well, they're not that big. The Asian grass hornet. Blah, blah. Well, yeah, that is pretty big. Stung by a giant hornet. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike on this. All right, I don't care what it looks like. I want to see what it looks like next to a human. Oh, it is big. That's gross. It's big. I've seen some pretty nasty big hornets, though, when I was over in Guam. They had some big, nasty hornets. They weren't real mean or anything, but they mind their own business. But Lone Eagle was back on this week. His cat Fuzzy had to be put to sleep. Yeah, I don't know. I guess he was saying people were backstabbing him and this and that. I try to stay out of all that, so I really don't know what. I don't have any details on it, but I'd heard he just said some things. So I don't know. It certainly is nasty when you lose your pet. I completely understand that. I don't think I would take down all my old videos, though, even if I wasn't streaming. I would just, neglect the channel. I would not take down all my stuff. So I don't know what to say about that, but it seems like it would be more than just that grieving process. But you got to read all the comments. You've got to delete all the trolls. He's got a lot more followers than me, so his maintenance has got to be a lot higher. So that could be part of it. Of course, you could just block comments, and then you don't have to go through and monitor them all. All right. Wagyu, bee killing, horses. All right. I saw this one about a year ago. This was just not in my old timeline. So apparently, this just wasn't. I was really flipping out about this when I saw it. I think maybe it was like 2 years ago, actually. The United Kingdom forced China to allow opium into the country, and they forced them to become like basically opiate addicts by not allowing them to block the incoming influx of narcotics. The influx of narcotics reversed Chinese trade surplus, drained the economy of silver, and increased the number of opium addicts inside the country. So basically, the old stories that China smoked a lot of opium, in this timeline, it was forced on them supposedly by the British. The British did it. They made these rules that blocked, and then there were several wars fought over it because China rebelled. So that's the Opium Wars. So the storyline is that China was very prosperous and kind of kicking Britain's butt. So Britain fought some wars over it to try to drain China. And basically they tried to force opium on China, and then they fought to make sure that stayed. That just wasn't in my old timeline. It was tripping me out when I saw it. And I saw it again recently, so I finally decided it's just time. In my old timeline, China was the opiate exporter. They were not forced to take it in. They were the source of it. So it's just weird. It's all reversed now. All right, so I'm almost done. Oh, Sarah's list. I'm too lazy to do that one. I'll do that one on another day. All right, I only one left, and it's an easy one. Now, when Mr. MBB 333, and Gaynor, thank you for the $1. I very much appreciate it. You know, all those little dollars do add up. So I do appreciate that. When Mr. MBB 333 was talking about the Sahara sands, I realized something I had kind of been noticing but not noticing. If you look at the images of the Sahara, most of them are very red. And so they're saying that the red Sahara sands are causing, and in $2, thank you very much. They are saying that the Sahara sands in the air. Now, in my old timeline, they did not used to blow over to different continents. That just didn't happen. But they're blaming like the red moons and the weird red skies and stuff on the Saharas. If you look at the Sahara, a lot of the images are just showing it as really red. And that just was not how it used to look in my timeline. This would be more accurate. It was tan sands. This is Utah's Little Sahara. But the sands in the Sahara were tan colored, like they were normal colored way back. And somehow they've been getting redder and redder. Now, most of the time when I'll click on these tan colored ones, it won't be the actual Sahara. See, again, I look at this one, I go, there's the right color. No, that's the Little Sahara, which is not the real Sahara. So the Sahara, also there's the snow on the Sahara. Of course, a lot of people don't remember there being snow in the Sahara back in the old days. So that's the last thing I want to say. The Sahara is getting real orange. Cool. It's neat looking. But again, to me, it was more like this. That was the sands of the Sahara. So, the last thing I wanted to say is last time it was actually Julie Holcomb that said that noticed that black is now the color that is the coolest in the summer. It is no longer white, according to official sources. That was Julie Holcomb that figured that out. Silver E55, thank you for the $3.99. I forgot. Is that pounds? I think that's actually more than U.S. dollars by a bit. I get confused on the euros versus the pounds, but thank you. Appreciate that. I wonder what it all means. Yeah, really. There's a good summation of the ME. I wonder what it all means. UK pounds. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Pounds is UK, euro is euro. Yeah, UK is pretty strong against the dollar, actually. Yes, it all helps. It definitely does. Could be from the metals they're spraying in the sky that are falling on it. Yeah, I just don't know. So many other things have changed. So I'm hesitant to say that I know that the sky changes are from chemtrails when a lot of the other stuff can't be explained by chemtrails. I mean, the photos in an old book in the attic and the 1970s maps from National Geographic I have up in the attic changed. And chemtrails did not do that. They did not change the artwork here behind me on my art. And they did not change anatomy. So no regular chemical can do that. So does that mean then that all the other changes are probably Mandela effect related? I think that my kind of use of Occam's razor says probably they're all Mandela. Could be wrong, but that's the way I tend to go on those. I have a thing for opiates. Yeah, that's a thing I don't want to have for opiates. I've actually never tried opiates. I've never had any major pain issues that called for it, so. I like mild stimulants. That's my kind of thing, but just over-the-counter stuff. I think my system does much better with stimulants. Kind of sharpens my mind. I don't think my system's likes depressants. Alcohol, those things, it's just not my deal. Anyone knows how the last chapter of the Bible is called? No peeking from the mind. You know what? I'm really can't say I'm well versed in the Bible. I mean, I've definitely learned a lot in the last 3 years. Because of the Mandela effect, I do look at the Bible more seriously now, but apocalypse means the revealing. Yeah. And even the Bible says that not everybody's going to suffer. If you have the faith, then it will bypass you. So I wish there was some way to break the deja vu I'm living in constantly. I have certain theories on what's causing it, but they're not very positive. Gosh, I don't know. That's one thing I've never really had. So, but even if I did, I doubt that would help me to know what caused it. That is interesting. There's a way to stop it. I don't know. When something's really bugging me, the only way I've ever been able to get through that stuff is to actually go through it, to like directly confront it, look at every aspect of it, just kind of lay it out on the table and pick through it head on and just charge through. That is the only way I've ever been able to fix like things bugging me psychologically and stuff. The more I go, no, I don't want it, it just keeps nagging and nagging. I have to deal with it. I don't know. Deja vu is kind of a different animal though, so I don't know if it would work for that. $65 in chat with only 5 likes. Don't worry about it. I'll get them in. Eva's getting rich. Yeah. How much money did I make? Let's see. I think it tells me on the top here. Oh, nope, it's not. I thought there was a way to check. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what it is. Toggle, send. Top chat, maybe there. Nope. I don't know my way around YouTube very well. Super chat, open a new window. I could try that one. It's going to be my last try. I know I've seen, that is how to do it. Oh yeah, check it out. Okay, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 18, 19, 20, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I got $26. Probably a tad more because of the UK pounds. Wow, that is actually probably a record. So, and it's just a few bucks from each person can make a big difference. So I really appreciate though. So, and an angel definitely was the biggest angel. Let's see. And then we've got Silver E55 and Great Gainer, Mandela Affected, Julie Holcomb. I very much appreciate all that. Very nice of you. All right. So I think it is time. I've been on for 2.5 hours. I think that will be you guys there. See if I can remember how to check that super chat all the way till next week. Someone recently uploaded a video saying our eyes are suddenly higher. I'll look in the mirror. I don't know if I've specifically noticed that. I have said many times my eyes are much more sunken in than I remember them. I used to be a bug-eyed Caucasian, and now I have these sunken in, kind of Asian-y style eyes. Actually kind of trips me out. Eyes higher, have to look in the mirror. Yeah, we're all going to go run and look in the mirror now. So anyway, thank you all. You know, as usual, a lot of good stuff from you guys. I think the larger percent of the actual talk is you guys, except for maybe today because I just waxed on about a bunch of unrelated theories. But overall, it's you guys that really do make the stream. So I appreciate it all. Thank you all for coming. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.